Yeah.
I mentioned like again, like you were interviewing like David Page and like Jim Vallance for your podcast, Guess That Record, like luminaries, legends is putting it mildly, and like kind of picking their brains. From doing the podcast and interviewing these people, like, is there anything that you've brought to your music, like in terms of like inspiration and stuff, or?
Yeah, I mean, really, the biggest thing for doing that podcast has just been, I think like it's just good for my career to be able to say, hey, I was talking with David Page and Jim Vallance and stuff like that.
I'll say, yeah.
Yeah, because, I think we can, like when we go to record labels and stuff like that, I think that having stuff like that looks really good. It's just been, I think like just it's probably more like subconscious stuff that like I've taken away from their like listening to their stories and that sort of thing. I mean, like
under their learning tree, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, it was cool like talking with David Page about like what it was like to work with Michael Jackson.
Oh yeah,
and
because they were the band for Thriller, Toto, which is
And I mean, David worked on a bunch of Michael Jackson albums, but
1,000,000%.
Like hearing him say like, oh, Michael was like a real perfectionist in the studio, but he was still open to like hearing ideas and trying new things, but wanted it to be perfect. That's it's cool to hear stuff like that from those guys. So yeah.
Getting out of the 80s and just to kind of nerd out about music for a second, what are kind of like, you have Guess That Record, you have a very big record collection, as I know.
Yeah.
So this is kind of like the worst question to ask, but because it's just favorite albums of all time, or maybe, we could do all time, but also for the past year, like maybe some favorite recent discoveries of older albums. Because I know for myself, I'm always digging back to the past and stuff I haven't heard before. Like I'm listening to like 80s Van Morrison now, which I love that.
I've been digging into that a little bit too
myself,
actually.
The best.
But I think like I'm much better at picking my favorite albums over like picking a favorite song. Like that's a lot harder for me than picking albums.
It's like the full package of the album.
I mean, like, because obviously like Bruce is probably my biggest influence.
Sure.
I really like Born in the USA just because it's probably the ultimate pop rock album, I would say.
From an end of the 80s of the thing you're emulating for this song. Like it's the kind of the platonic ideal.
I would love to make albums like that, where it's like kind of half rock and roll, half synth pop.
And that he really crossed over with them too in the pop charts, which he didn't really until that point. But
a little bit.
Not to that extent anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Another one from him that I really like is Darkness on the Edge of Town.
Yeah.
That was kind of the one where I really got him. Kind of, it just all started to click for me with Bruce on that record.
Again, about like recent, like from like, I think we're in 2023 now, but 2022, like what discoveries like were you really hyped about?
It was a bit of not a discovery, but sort of a rediscovery. Going back to like the Beatles and Paul McCartney and that sort of thing. Because of course the end of going into 2022, we had the Get Back documentary. That kind of got me back into Beatles stuff.
It got you back, indeed, no pun intended.
Yeah, exactly. And then I went to see Paul in concert in Spokane. The first show on his tour. So that was kind of crazy to see Paul live for the first time. So there was definitely a lot of like McCartney stuff and Beatles last year.
What kind of solo, like Wings kind of thing?
I think, when looking at Paul, I think he might, it's weird because I do really like George Harrison a lot.
Of course.
But Paul, I think, had the strongest output out of all of them, like post-Beatles.
Yeah, and he tried so many different things.
Yeah.
Like, it was mostly successful. I mean, the thing like with someone who's put that much in, like some you like better than others, but the fact that he tried, I think is worth applauding.
Yeah. I mean, even one song that I kind of, when we were writing in my head, because Rihanna, the producer, she wanted to kind of figure out like what sounds I liked when we were like really early in the process. So she was playing me a bunch of new stuff, but she also wanted to hear some stuff I liked. And one song that I brought up to her, which was kind of a recent discovery at the time, was Arrow Through Me off of
Oh, from
Back to the Egg.
Yeah, with that great cover. Yeah, I love Back to the Egg as an album. Too.
Yeah,
It's really cool.
but that song, I was kind of like, this could be something we could use as an inspiration.
That's legit, Mark. Because I know Erykah Badu sampled that 10 years ago.
Well,
for, hip,
it's crazy because that album came out in 1979.
Yeah.
But it sounds like something that song specifically sounds like something that could have come out today.
Of course.
So it was a bit of a Beatle year for me for sure. And just kind of just general. Yeah,
I like the stuff
80s.
he kind of in the late '80s. Not to get he wrote Elvis Costello, My Brave Face is kind of that's a fun one. Then
that's actually that was an album I listened to when looking at McCartney stuff.
Yeah, and then they wrote Veronica for Elvis, later, Costello, and that was a great song. Anyway, yeah. So, but in terms of I know we're talking about Martin, and get back to the thing about all-time favorites. You talk about Bruce. You talk about what other kind of artists?
Yeah.
All-time favorites.
Well, I mean, definitely Bruce, Tom Petty, Prince.
Yeah. What's your favorite Tom Petty? Not to interrupt you.
Album? Or?
Yeah, let's do album. Yeah,
sure. I like the first album, and Southern accents. I think are, but really, I mean, the first album through Full Moon or Into the Great Wide Open is you can't go wrong with. And I
really think you can't pick a better rock and band than the Heartbreakers. Just pound for pound, Mike Campbell and Attention, just and then
yeah.
Because I've been listening, they recently put out the Live at the Fillmore 1997 box a couple months ago, and I've been listening, which I highly recommend if you haven't checked it out. So good. Let's see. So, but now to go back I know I'm jumping all over the place. What was your initial spark to make music overall?
Well, I mean, I have sort of three moments that are kind of the three big discoveries in my career, I guess, that changed a lot of stuff for me. The first one was the Beatles.
Sure.
I was I think 11 when I heard Paperback Writer for the first time, and that
would blow your mind. That blows anyone's mind.
The guitar, that was I want to play guitar when I heard that song. So that was big, but I kind of after that. Well, a little bit after that, I kind of lost interest in music, and the thing that got me back into music was Led Zeppelin.
Oh yeah,
I heard Stairway to Heaven, and from that point on, I was like, okay, I'm gonna actually learn how to play guitar, because before Zeppelin, I couldn't play a solo or anything like that. So Zeppelin was big, and it was kind of a gateway for more music. For me.
And what was the timeline? Was you in school?
That was right at the start of high school.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and then the next big discovery was Bruce. I think maybe just after my first year of university. And Bruce was a big discovery because he made me want to be a singer. Because before that point, I didn't really have an interest in singing. I wanted to be Jimmy Page.
Jimmy Page, right?
Yeah. But
you want to be a shredder.
Yeah.
But then you see Bruce, who's the full
Yeah, exactly.
How he captures an audience.
Yeah, and that was sort of what made me go, if Bruce can sing, then I could sing. And those are really
it's about the passion, it's about the emoting, which Bruce is the king at.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny how it's not one single moment that got me into music. It's sort of three.
Yeah, and then three, but then you add those up, and then where you are today, and it all makes sense from all that stuff. So you've done a lot of shows. In terms of live shows, where are some of your favorite, most memorable live shows of your career so far?
Yeah, well, one that always comes to mind was when I played in Nashville. So I did with my keyboard player Jeremy Brigham. We went down to the States, and we were going to do a tour sort of up the East Coast with a bunch of other bands, but it wasn't organized very well.
Sure.
And it was just it was kind of disappointing. So when we got to Nashville, we decided we're not going further after Nashville. But we played in this kind of dinky little bar, very off Broadway. Broadway's the big strip in Nashville with all the bars and stuff.
There's a Music Row kind of,
yeah. But this bar we were playing was packed, and we go up and we did it was kind of like a thrown together band. So we just sort of did some covers, but we did Sultans of Swing and Old Time Rock and Roll by Bob Seger.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing was after we finished, I was packing up my guitar, and this lady walked up to me, and she was like, "Hi, Jackson. My name's Sean Murphy. I'm in Bob Seger's band. I've toured with him for like 45 years." So she was one of his background singers, and was just like,
what are the odds, man?
I guess in Nashville that can happen. Where you meet someone who's like done crazy stuff, and I mean, she not only has she done all this stuff with Bob Seger, but like in the mid '80s, she toured with Eric Clapton.
Okay,
and she was in the band when they played at Live Aid. In Philadelphia.
Wow.
So yeah, like that was like the first time I met someone who'd like actually done something in the music industry.
And by chance, which is the best part.
And well, yeah, I mean, and it's funny how we played a Bob Seger song, and that's why she was like, "Hey, these guys are cool." So
that's so cool.
Yeah, and then another one that I look back on pretty fondly was actually this past summer. Here in Calgary, we played at Broken City.
Oh, of course, legendary venue, classic venue.
And it was really like my first. I mean, we had played the Rockin' for Dollars a few weeks before that, but we got offered like an actual show at Broken City.
Amazing.
So it was like the first time that I had played with the full band since the pandemic and all that stuff. And it was a great show. Mainly because, like, the start of it was a bit rough. We made a few mistakes, but we recovered strongly. And at the end, it's something I learned from Bruce. But Bruce always used to do this thing called the Detroit Medley, where he would play like,
Motown.
Well, sort of. It's like a lot of like Mitch Ryder and the Detroit Wheels.
Oh, that side of Motown. I'm Detroit, right.
Yeah.
Right.
He'd play. It was like a Devil with the Blue Dress, Good Golly Miss Molly.
Yeah. Very cool.
Traveling Band, CCR there, but
very high energy classic rock songs.
Yeah, those are great songs to do.
And I love you playing those like classic songs. And again, I've been to Broken City many times, which is kind of more of a punky kind of venue.
Yeah.
And it's like you're bringing like these classic songs to this very young demo.
Yeah.
And you're probably blowing minds. Like, I've never heard Devil in a Blue Dress. I mean, you're probably exposing young minds to like really classic rock music.
Exactly. Yeah. But that performance specifically, I think, was my finest moment on stage because I just like went nuts. I was jumping all over the place. I I did a little bit towards the end of the song where I sort of like passed out, and I was like, I need to hear a roaring crowd to finish this. And
showmanship.
Yeah. And so that's and I think that was a really fun moment, and I want to do more of that. I want to keep playing that stuff. So
it's funny. I have this question list in terms because in addition to originals, you do covers, and you kind of touched on the covers you do live. What are kind of some of your favorite covers to play live, or some maybe you're working on for future shows? Or?
Yeah, I mean, that was really the first time we did the Detroit medley, like with everyone, and it went like it was really good. Like it's I do like playing those sort of older stuff because it still gets the crowd going no matter what.
And there's like a punky energy to them anyway.
Exactly.
Like they're like 2-3 minute songs and just high energy. Let's go.
But it really just depends on the show. Like I feel like every show there's like some song that I've never played before.
Yeah.
It's kind of just like at the time I hear something and I'm like, oh, this would be really good to play live. So yeah, I mean it's kind of always changed a bit, like depending on what I'm feeling like at the time of the show.
I've kind of touched on this in the back, but let's do a summation just in terms of like how your music has evolved over the years, and again let's go over the evolution. Like how has it evolved over the years?
Yeah, I think it's if you listen to my EP on air, and then when the new song comes out, you'll really see the evolution. Because I mean,
I sure did.
Yeah, I started out. I mean, I wanted to basically just do like, what was done back in the day. So like very, very much more like rock but with, like kind of a sing-songy pop element to it. But that hasn't necessarily resulted in like more success for me or whatever. So
Sure.
Kind of starting around Dangerous Lover. That was when I was like, okay, I need to try and make it maybe more pop with a rock attitude instead of rock with a pop attitude.
So you don't lose yourself in it. Like it's clearly still Jackson Reed, but just you're kind of
Yeah. So I think like that's been the big thing, is just kind of it's gotten more pop over time.
Yeah.
But like I think it's still got the kind of old school nostalgic
for sure
attitude.
And you mentioned like
it.
your heroes and stuff. Like I mean, we're talking about Paul McCartney a lot. Has there ever been a better pop songwriter than Paul McCartney? Like like truly.
I mean, all the stuff I listen to is pop music. I mean, even a band like the Rolling Stones.
Oh yeah,
they're really just a pop band. I mean,
just
they wrote
better songcraft than anybody.
They wrote songs to be played on the radio.
Absolutely.
And I find like, I mean, that's kind of influenced me. Like I want to write songs that are on the radio.
Yeah, of course. And that's why, like, again, it's not much of a leap for you because it's what you're already inspired by and influenced.
Yeah.
But you're just like, even going like, I think it's even just the more years of doing it, like the more years of writing songs, performing shows. Of course, it's like the Malcolm Gladwell 10,000 hours thing, which like the Beatles, you just get better, and you have gotten better. Like as someone, I've followed your career and stuff for years now, and like each successive release, you're like getting better with better songs and stuff, and that's just from doing it more.
I think so, yeah. Especially, I think like with this new song, I think it might be like my best vocal performance so far.
I would agree, legit.
Yeah, like it's that's been the one place where I feel like, like I've kind of been. I reached like I haven't reached the top of guitar playing, but like but
what you're more comfortable with.
I'm more comfortable with guitar playing. I think I've been working more to become a better singer.